even if those first four kids did not come, Kris Jenner would have been regarded as umfazi ophelele ngoba utshadile. There are plenty of married couples that have only ever had 2 children. My mom, before she met my little sister's dad, only had 2 kids in a marriage. My aunt has 3. My uncle has only 2 kids, still to this day. Well, actually 3, because there was one that was made out of wedlock because of cheating. Inside marriage, only 2. It is entirely feasible for families to have only 2 children. If anything, there are some that only have 1. It is modern day families are not like the Wesleys that had 19 children. Like John and Charles Wesley's parents had 19 kids, only 10 of which reached adulthood because that was just the way that life was back in the day. Modern day women, it is entirely feasible for them to only have 2 children in a marriage that lasts like 50 years because people are actually preventing pregnancies. You know what I'm saying? There are plenty of people that only have 2 kids. If anything, there are plenty of people that only plan for 2 kids, for 2.5, for 3 kids, whatever, right? So frankly, what Kris Jenner was with Bruce was essentially the miracle that most of us underestimate is realistic. A full family, a woman getting to old age, a woman getting to see her young children that she had at an older age have children. She is thoroughly a grandmother of Gen Z children, having given birth to these Gen Z children in her mid to late 40s, if not 50s. She gave birth to these children in her mid to late 40s, if not at the slap bang age of 50. And she was happily married, and she was a vivacious, yummy mummy that everybody was looking at in the world and essentially role modeling their own lives against. If at all she did not have Courtney, Kim, Chloe, and Rob, she would have been mother enough and wife enough with just Kendall and Kylie. And she also would have gotten to see grandchildren from at least so far Kylie. Kendall is still kind of waiting, right? At least so far Kylie. She's got grandchildren from Gen Z kids, and she had her child. Those 2 kids late, having married late. Now, as for Bruce, I don't know if Bruce has any other children outside of the Kardashian clan. I think Kendall and Kylie are his only kids, but listen, I stand corrected, right? What it says is that Bruce, minus his little going awry with the LGBTQIA community, is exactly what I'm waiting on God for. It's exactly what I'm waiting on God for. A man whose machinery still works, meeting a woman whose machinery still works, but who have been underestimated because of their age and their thought to not be able or are unreasonable to try and have children at that late age. Except both Bruce and Kris. Both Bruce and Kris are still alive. None of them died. Both of them were there to raise these lamakis that are Kendall and Kylie. Kendall and Kylie, when they get married, will be able to have Bruce walk them down the aisle, God willing, should Bruce not die any day now, right? And like I said, both Bruce and Kris have enjoyed a grandchild from lamakis. When apparently allegedly when you be out here pushing the goalpost to that place, your kids are gonna grow up without a mom or dad. Neither is their mom or dad gonna be at their wedding. Neither are they gonna have a vivacious mom or a vivacious dad when they're growing up as children that is going to be able to essentially be there for them and do for them all that which young parents can do for them when they're growing up. Kris Jenner and Bruce and those 2 Latlamaki Gen Z babies that are Kendall and Kylie. A worldly example is not even godly. Are an example, are the reason why everybody is without excuse when they're impatient. As soon as they hit 30, they're like out just sprinting down the aisle, never mind walking. Listen, you're not walking anymore, you're sprinting. They're the reason why nobody has an excuse to rush things. Nobody has an excuse to think that I want to be a yummy mummy that's young. I want to be energetic and be able to essentially be there for my children. And if I have my kids late, I'm going to be a granny around them, and they're going to struggle to have me in the vigor of the need for a mother, in the vigor of youth that children need in a young mom. The Kardashian mom and Bruce were both their bodies, they were both healthy. They took care of themselves. Their lifestyles, essentially, they ate right and all that jazz. If anything, Bruce was an athlete in the young days, right? Still to this day, wouldn't have vigor, even though he's busy out there rocking women's clothes. Nonetheless, he's still a very healthy man. He is a very, very healthy man. And so too is Kris Jenner, a very, very healthy woman, right? Oh, healthy. Now, and a very vivacious, viable woman, just going and going and going with energy. God forbid, may the Lord give her many more years. May the Lord give all of those Kardashians mercy to repent and give their lives over to the Lord. But their example, family the Kardashians, the fame of the Kardashians, I believe God pretty much is using it to make the world of people across all age groups to realize that look at that family, please. Why are you rushing? Look at that family. Yes, all of you that marry in your 20s, congratulations. You get to have Courtney, you get to have Kim, you get to have Chloe, and you get to have Rob. It's glorious and it's beautiful to have children in your youth. But even if I should make you wait to get married in your 40s, you get to experience the model of family that Chris and Bruce had. They had children that they were able to vivaciously be there for. We watched the Kardashians live in front of us. I used to watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians back before Bruce went awry on the family, and went awry on Chris. There was so much involvement and love over there. And like I said, availability by Chris for these growing children. They did not regard Kim as a mother figure, or Courtney as a mother figure, or Chloe or Rob as a father figure because their mom was so old. They did not have to lean all of their energies on their siblings. They leaned their energies on their mom and their dad. They leaned their energies on their mom and their dad, and the older Kardashians were to them the same way as the way that you would have been with your siblings growing up. The age gap was irrelevant because they had a similar family experience to kids growing up in the same household that are close to age together. Like rowdy, tiki, there's lots of activity going on. They had a similar experience of growing up as the Kardashian older kids had growing up. There was no like divorcement or cognitive dissonance because of the age that they were in comparison to the Kardashians. They have a sibling relatability with their sister and brother, and not so much my sister was like a mother to me. They look at the older Kardashians as my siblings, not my parent figure, because their parent figures were available with vigor and with energy throughout their lives. And there was a distinguishable difference between their parents and their siblings. Which is why now today, Kylie Jenner, Kim Kardashian complains that, but that's what siblings do. She wants to copy me and who it is that I am. She wants to take over pretty much my whole legacy. Kim be out here complaining about Kylie because that's what siblings do. They copy each other, they compete, they have sibling rivalry. But you would not try and copy the legacy of your mom because there is a comprehension that is just inappropriate. Whereas Kylie could see herself pretty much taking over Kim. That happens between siblings. In my own family, my baby sister grew up with us around and my mom having vigor as well. She was never too tired to do anything, to pick up, to be available as a mother. My little sister never viewed me as a mother figure, seeing as I was so much older than her. She viewed me as a sibling. And as she got older, she became competitive, just as Kylie Jenner is competitive with Kim. She became competitive. What rings in her bones is sibling rivalry when she's looking at me. She's not looking at a mother figure. She's looking at a sibling that she has to outdo. Listen, my little sister is exactly like the Ojwal. She looks at me like someone that she must outdo. Just in the same way that my older sister looks at me as someone that she must outdo. She does not look at me as someone that could, frankly, if my mom dies, I got this for her. She sees me as someone that she must outdo. That's what happens when a parent is vigorous, active, and healthy in the life of a Latlamiki. This Latlamiki views the parent as a parent, has a similar upbringing experience to the older siblings, and looks at the siblings with rivalry if that's what's going on in their heart, or affection as siblings. But nonetheless, who are you? You're just my sister. You're not my mom. You're not going to tell me what to do, even though she's that much younger. So what I'm trying to get at is that the model of the Kardashians, and pretty much what's going on even in my own family, I have those genes, evidently, is to make the world realize that you are crazy, you've lost your minds. Why? Why under heaven are you so impatient to wait on God for husbands? Why under heaven are you in such a rush? Why in this modern when I wasn't listening, this was supposed to be a small little short discussion, and now it's 11:22 and I've got trepidation about finishing my music. But anyway, I'm going to do it even though maybe with a hush tone. What I wanted to say was, back in the day, people be out passing away in infancy. People barely made it to adulthood. I told you about the Wesley family, 10 children of which out of the 19 did not get to make it to adulthood. And also, if you got to the age of 40, you were regarded as old. Because back then, I guess there was no penicillin. Back then, I guess there was no blood transfusions. Back then, I guess there were not sufficient surgeries. Back then, I guess not everybody had food security. It was hard to come by ukudla. The industrial revolutions of this world made FMCGs feasible. Refrigerated food that could last for months on end, canned food, mass production of such food as that, the food industry, preserved food, food that doesn't rot because, listen, it's been chilling out in the wilderness for 5 days, and so now you can't eat it anymore. And also eating food that is, frankly, rotting. I was watching a documentary some years ago about the industrial revolution in America that made it the big powerhouse that it is in the food industry, and they spoke about how people used to thoroughly eat food that was like glazed on the surface with mold because that was just, frankly, still good to eat. And that can account for, this was before the innovation of things like ketchup, tomato sauce, right? And ketchup, I think it was innovated. Initially, it was like a vinegary sauce that ultimately they added tomatoes in it, and it became really catchy. People loved it because it was able to conceal not only the scent of rotting food, but it also, in itself, functioned as like some kind of an antiseptic, if you will, to the pathogens that were on rotten meat. People did not easily throw away food, but they had no way to preserve it, and so they ate food that smelled funny and that also evidently had fuzz on the surface. Some of us can't even fathom that today. But there are hobos that eat out of dustbins and they survive, they make it. But it is also because of eating such pathogenic food that I guess life expectancy was so low. That is just a bedrock of grandiose amounts of disease, you would imagine, right? So when then there is no preservation of food, there are no refrigerator trucks to transport food. There are also no refrigerators in FMCGs, neither ones in your own homes. And you have to really eat food quickly. Produce, like things, when they fall off trees, you have to make sure that you eat quickly. I mean, I would imagine just how frustrating harvest season must have been. Like, you harvest grapes at one season and you have to either make them wine real fast or eat all of them or just eat them all mushy and gross. Okay? Like, people had a hard time when it came to eating back in the day. Farming was important, and when you picked fruit mattered. You could not can food, you could not, etc. So, but the food industry that burgeoned, and also the innovation of things like refrigeration, like the refrigerators, you know, the ones that bird's eye, those big fridges at grocery stores that have got like packed fish in it, or packed chicken or whatever, like frozen beans, frozen whatever. Yeah, those innovations, America, listen, that's why they're a superpower today. Listen, I have mad respect for the US anyway, whatever. Was responsible for innovating much of that, those industries, type establishment thing. And so therefore they revolutionized food. The Wesleys lived in, is it the 19th century? It was essentially not even all that long ago. And already then, do you understand? In 19th century is like the 18 something, right? 1800 and whatever. Already then still at that time, people were dying at birth. You were old when you were 40. When you got to the age of 30, people were confused. Not confused, but you were rare. And kids died. In infancy, lots of them. It was not long ago. I mean, it's just a mere, 300 years ago? It was not long ago, so you could imagine. So therefore, one can imagine what John Wesley would think when he came to South Africa. Now there are families that thoroughly can have 12 kids born, 20 kids born, the multitudes of kids that you would find, for instance, in The Sound of Music. And all of them live to adulthood. And listen, all of them die in their 80s and 70s. This is the first time in history where such a thing is feasible, where a woman be after giving birth to 19 kids and all of them live to at least the age of 70. Only in the 20th and 21st centuries did that become finally a reality, where the family in The Sound of Music lives to a ripe old age. However, in the days of John Wesley, which was not too long ago, from the days of The Sound of Music, by century times, like it was only 200 centuries, not centuries, but 200 years ago, 2 centuries ago, when the Wesleys were alive and they lost 10 siblings, it was easy to just undergo bereavement back then. And so therefore, given that I was listening to a documentary, the situation was so dire. It was before the rebuke of alcoholism, the rebuke of drinking when you are heavily pregnant, before medical technology would essentially rebuke smoking while pregnant, rebuke taking drugs while pregnant, rebuke drinking alcohol, like fetal alcohol syndrome, all those things. Before medical technology would find error, if anything, Martin Luther was counseled to smoke a tobacco pipe by the parish. Ain't nobody be out to telling no pastor to smoke no cigarette in the 21st century. Because not only do we understand that it is bad for the health, but it is a vice. We understand it as a vice. He was counseled not by the parish, but by his doctor. Not the parish, by his doctor counseled him to smoke a pipe. The guy had such bad health. That's why he did not make it to the age of 60. He died, I believe, in his late 50s. What do you call this? He smoked a pipe as being counseled. That was back when people thought tobacco was healthy for you. They thought that alcohol, you could drink it while pregnant. They innovate. I found out when I was listening to the testimony of Charles Wesley. I get it, he's John Wesley's brother. That during that time, well, pretty much around the same time as John Wesley, gin was just being manufactured in masses very cheaply. And everybody was busy out here getting drunk on it because barely did anybody have anything to do, and it was really cheap. And women would be out here with newborn babies carrying them, and then they would fall to the ground and die because the women were so drunk. That is how much infant mortality there was in those days, where women would drop their babies to their deaths. Worse yet, because they wanted to calm the babies down. Like, don't cry so much, you're annoying me. Futi, I'm drunk all the time. I'm always walking around stumbling. It was like a most horrible season when they were explaining the state of, is it England, prior to John and Charles essentially doing a thing. People really needed a God, and there was barely any preaching, and people were always falling asleep in pews, and out there was so much drunkenness in the street. It was terrible, and people were busy getting drunk on gin, and these women and men, largely women, because it was the responsibility of women to be raising children. Men barely ever had anything to do with it, unless of course they were responsible dads. They were willing to help the woman along, meet the lady halfway. They would give their babies gin to make them sleep. Some women still do this to this day. Mara, instead of gin, it's like pharmaceuticals. It's the panado. They crush a panado and they give a baby just like a small little amount to make the baby sleep all night. It's abusive. It should not be getting done. But women have been for a very long amount of time drugging children to make them sleep. And apparently, this here, giving babies gin to make them quiet and to make them sleep would sometimes make them blind. They would lose their eyesight. They would get autoimmune diseases. And in the worst case scenario, they would die. I mean, it was so abusive. But women were out there giving their babies gin, so that can account again for infant mortality. Kids be out there dying because parents be giving them gin. Kids be out there dying because parents be out there dropping them while drunk on gin. And kids also be out there dying because, like I said, no penicillin, no this, no that. Medical technology has not yet advanced. Everybody's like nice and poor. They're working some horrible jobs in mines and everything. It's very dangerous over there. The irrigation systems are not at the level that they're at today with purification, and so they're always drinking crazy water. Like, listen, it's a terrible time. And again, just like I mentioned with ketchup and them eating rotten meat that's got peach fuzz on it, but hey, you're gonna put some vinegar with a little bit of tomato paste on it, and so it's gonna make it taste a little bit bitter. That's why ketchup was such a rave in America. Tomato also. Well, even before the innovation of ketchup, people were busy eating rotten food. So you out there eating rotten food. Everybody was like a hobo digging through a dustbin. Everybody was like a hobo dirty. Everybody was like a hobo drunk. And everybody was like a hobo unable to take care of their children, and so therefore they drop them and they die. And everybody was like a hobo, so therefore they don't care if children be out there drinking alcohol. So people just died. Not only did they die in infancy, struggling to get to adulthood, flus killed people. Remember Ringa Roses, a bucket full of poses, a tissue, we all fall down. That was a very grim nursery rhyme by turn, because it was during the time, I believe, of the bubonic plague, Black Death, or the influenza. And there, with the influenza, if you came out with a sneeze, achoo, it was almost time for you to die. So Ringa Roses, a bucket full of poses, a tissue, achoo, that's a sneeze, a tissue, achoo, that's a sneeze. We all fall down. That's a plague. That's just like Mamela, mass death because of disease. Martin Luther dealt with many a plague in his time, so too did John Wesley. Do you understand what I'm saying? A tissue, we all fall down. So today, however, like, look at me. Right now, I've got sniffles, don't I? I have sniffles. And with my sniffles, all I do is just wipe down my nose, but I'm not freaking out. I'm not worried, because my immune system has been built from immunizations and just years of essentially surviving, taking antibiotics, healing from flus, sniffles, sneezes. But a runny nose was at some point potentially fatal. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, so people barely ever lived. And if at all you as a person, when you get to the age of 30, you're regarded as old, and most people die by 40, when that is your generation, and the grand majority of people don't make like John or Charles Wesley and get to a much older age like 70s, when most people, frankly, just die in their youth, when most people are considered old and kind of spent when they get to their 40s, and when you are starting to be regarded as old, when you are 30 only, and your children, however many of them you carry to term, a grand majority, not majority, but a healthy chunk of them won't make it to adulthood or even past teenagehood. You're living in a time when you gotta make babies and you gotta make them fast. Do you understand? Health, like people of back in the day, you know, with photographs of those whose images were indeed captured, they looked a lot older than us because they had to travel long distances. They had no regard for protecting their faces against the sun, and they also did not have nearly as many lifestyle advices that we now today have, so as to eradicate expedited aging. They also did not in themselves, they used to work pretty horrible jobs, like you've seen miners, right? Jobs that involve a lot of like manual labor. They age your hands at record speed, and they age your face. Like a life that is full of stress, and again, a lack of nutrients. When you don't have a balanced diet 3 times a day from the time you're a child, or however many times is regarded as feasible. If you don't have 7 colors, in the black community we grow up priding ourselves on 7 colors, you have no idea how blessed you are to be able to eat those 7 colors every Sunday from Ugogo, though you grew up at Gas. Do you understand what I'm saying? Ikasi is not regarded as necessarily lani or luxurious, but nonetheless, you're eating more luxuriously than anyone in 19th and 18th and 20th centuries ever could have eaten. Do you understand? We're living in a time where food is mamela. In this nation, there are plenty of homeless men and homeless women, but I've never seen a truly anorexic homeless man on the street. Neither have I ever seen one that is frankly passing away from, in particular, thirst. There are ablution facilities everywhere, so anyone that insists on staying dirty has chosen to stay dirty because people can bath in malls and people can bath in public bathrooms. People will always have access to water, and there is so much food thrown away at restaurants that no one essentially goes hungry if they're smart, even if you live on the street. So our hobos look fat in comparison to famine-ravaged people in the Horn of Africa. They look like skinny boys, the way that you, when you're on a diet, would end up looking skinny, but they don't look emaciated to the point of you seeing their rib cage. Even when they're homeless. Our hobos look healthy, you understand what I'm saying? Because what food they do salvage at the end of each day is healthy enough to eat. It's healthy enough to eat. It's not even rotten. Like that peach fuzz having meat before the Industrial Revolution in the US, prior to or during World War I. Yeah, they can eat a half-eaten burger at McDonald's that was thrown in a dustbin. It's still perfectly good. It's just that somebody that was full and burping just didn't want to finish it. So that's how hobos eat. When I was working at MTN, the catering at events over there, we were told once upon a time by the staff that catered, that worked in the canteen, when they were carrying the food away, I was like, my friend and my colleague and I were like, oh, Hashem, you guys are gonna have a party tonight, aren't you? Because when I listened to it was all perfectly healthy food, muffins, croissants, like listen, the whole like finger food. And the guy who worked for the catering company was like, we're not allowed to take this food home. It's illegal according to the bylaws of this country and by the company. Lest something should hurt us, lest we should get poisoned. They don't want to be responsible under compensation for occupational injuries and diseases. So therefore, we cannot take this food home. We have to throw it away. Mamela, he said that they have to throw it away. They can't even give it to charity. They can't even. He said that if you guys don't finish this food, if at this event, you don't take all the croissants home, if at this event you don't take all the little finger sandwiches, the little small little cocktail breads, if you don't take all the spring rolls, if you don't take all this pop, all this chakalaka, it's going in a dustbin. And I was shocked out of my mind. If anything, I was bereft. I was sad. Indeed, my colleague and I both exclaimed, do you know how many people are starving across the world and you are just throwing away perfectly good food? And y'all tend to over cater anyway, barely in ever at any event. Do the staff members who eat over here clean all the food? So you have to throw away listen, you think back of all the events you ever attended, and all the like muffins you left there because now your buttons were popping, like you don't need more. Plus you already took 3 of your own and you put them in a scuffed, you're not taking more, right? All that chocolate cake. Are you telling me that there's no fatso in the book Matilda gonna eat it all? Are you telling me that all this is going in a bin? It just made me and my colleague kind of sad, because it was like, listen, there are so many starving people on earth, which is why it's quite bizarre that anybody at all goes hungry, because there's more than enough food on earth to feed everyone, but there's too much selfishness on earth to feed anyone. But anyway, that's not what I'm getting at. Bottom line is, in this modern era, everybody eats like a king. Back in the day, the whole saying, eating like a king, is indeed from the very reality of the fact that only kings, and it was indeed only royalty that got to live to ripe old ages. Everybody else, the peasants, they died at 20, 29, 19. But royalty, you know, go and look at the accounts of royalty across history in whatever country there might have been a kingdom. These people be out living to 18, 1995. Queen Victoria, Queen this, that, whatnot, King Henry. You find out how old these people were when they died. Why? Because they had a balanced diet, likely eating 3 times a day. They got grapes, they got pomegranates, they got whatever. And food is medicine. Food in itself has healing power. So if you're eating a balanced diet, that is likely enough to keep you from the sniffles. Vitamin C inside fruit, RGB thwarting the sniffles, right? It keeps you from a tissue we all fall down. Like food can cure you from whatever it is that you're going through. Herbs, God made them on earth to have medicinal purposes. So people that have got a balanced diet, even if they know it or don't know it, are building their bodies. They're developing to be strong and orky. They can exercise, they can sweat, and after sweating, after working a full day's job, drink clean water. There was not sufficient irrigation, plumbing, so amanzi was also hard to come by, and yet it was only queens and kings and people who lived in palaces that could actually take baths, like as in fill up a bathtub ngamanzi. But there was not sufficient irrigation, and if you did not live by a river, you would not have easy access to water. So it was a luxury for people to drink water, whereas in modern society, so therefore you only drank, you spared amanzi, like had a sip if at all there was any available. Nakhona, it tended to be dirty, having likely salmonella in it. Like listen, whatever it is that causes cholera, all up in there, pathogens. Yet, however, in modern society, we got all these counselors telling us, listen, because they can afford to. We've got irrigation systems. Even when we're going through droughts, we don't go thirsty. We're just told by our governments to spare water and not wash our... We're told to spare water and not wash our cars with hose pipes, etc. But if you're going through a drought in your country, you are unlikely going to actually die from dehydration. The only issue, and neither are you going to have a day where you don't take a bath. The only issue you're gonna have is that maybe you might get told don't fill up your swimming pool to the dregs and to the brim, and don't wash your car with a hose pipe. Wash it with a bucket and a sponge, but don't splash it with a hose pipe. That's what happened in South Africa when we had a drought for a season. I didn't feel it, barely anybody felt it, and people were able to take a bath every single day, and never was there a day when there was no water coming out from the taps because of the drought. If there was no water, it was because there was maintenance. If there was no water coming out of the pompo, it was only for a few days because of maintenance issues, whatnot, but it was never because of the drought. It was never because of what's going on in Iran, for instance, that caused them to have no water coming out of their taps. As a result of irresponsible government manhandling of their systems, tap establishment things. So because we live in an era or a season or a time where it is that you can be out just sipping, be drinking as much water as you want, and also be out just taking showers all the day long. So washing your body eradicates you from pathogens. When you are stinking it up a storm and you smell and you have a cut on your body, it can become septic. Your soap is alarmingly just your regular soap like Lux, Palmolive, Sunlight, Green Pass soap, Eleamakoya on its own. Be out just doing away with 99% of pathogens. Listen, I'm telling you. Hand sanitizer is a luxury. You don't even need hand sanitizer in order to eradicate pathogens, just good old-fashioned soap. So you have no idea the power of soap. I don't know what's in it, but that stuff is powerful. Back then, people didn't have soap. So when you wash your body, you ascertain that when you fall and you scrape your knee, you're not going to get something septic spreading, ending you, needing an amputation. But back then, people be out just falling, scraping their knees, getting cut by rusty, like piping or whatever, in their hard knock jobs, and it like out your be like oozing in red and purple and green and all different kinds of malevolent colors. A few hours later, next thing this person is dying. Next, like I found out that the father of William Seymour, the guy who started the Azusa revival, passed away from such things as those. He worked a hard knock job and was always dirty, and so therefore he died. Unnecessary, like deaths that are unnecessary. Into the 21st century, everybody would just be shocked that somebody died from that. Do you understand? Because by mere virtue of taking baths every day, brushing our teeth every day, our health is maintained. Because that toothpaste eradicates so much in our mouths, and so too does that soap that you take for granted, because it's not an elite soap, it's that Green Pass soap, Elea Sunlight. It is excruciatingly protective, which is why people who don't wash their hands, you don't know what time we be coming from back in the history days. You would love to wash your hands if only you done found out. Stop flushing some toilets and then just walk in now. It's gross. But aren't you blessed by the fact that others do wash their hands and are protected from you? Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, so just taking a bath every day is life-saving. It's literally life-saving. It is just taking a bath every day is the reason why your child that is hyperactive at school will live to the age of 59, 70, 88. That kid, however, back in the day, could die simply because they fell and braced their knee. Like, listen, it was bad back in the day. It was bad. Nobody had Dettol, nobody had antiseptic. And even if you don't have Dettol and antiseptic and weird stuff, if you just got soap, if you just run your body through shower water that's soapy on a wound, you will likely live. You will survive. Necrotizing fasciitis don't need to be out or taking you out like a light. You just be needing to wash some stuff. And bacteria be going poof like Houdini. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So washing has helped our cause. Refrigeration and scaling the food industry, and so therefore availing for us ukudla at that scale. And so therefore, if you've got lots and lots of food, you can also reduce the price of food. Also, to have food in your house all month and not need to go and buy food again. Again, bizarre time. We're living in a bizarre time in comparison to history. Because people needed to buy food every single day and cook every single day and preserve, like just storing the way that we store food, like people have innovated us into health. And so we've got balanced diets, we've got fruit that are, you be out to buying frozen blueberries, and if you use them in like dough, like what do you call it, like cake batters, they are just as good as blueberries newly picked from trees. But there was a time when you could never ever do frozen blueberries because where's the fridge? Where's the fridge? Where's the fridge? Frozen blueberries and frozen strawberries and frozen fruit essentially are just, or again, it's canned fruit, are just as good nutritiously as stuff that is newly picked from the tree. Newly picked from the tree. right? So to be able to have that compared to other people, everybody now eats like a king, because only kings and queens, royalty, the wealthy, the elite, the nobility, the aristocracy, they were the only ones able to eat like legs of lamb and just grapes falling off in their clumps, a table that is just teeming at the folds with other kinds of delicacies, cakes of which have got strawberry jam on them, strawberry jam of which have got strawberries in them, strawberries of which in this modern era are regarded as, listen to this, a superfood. Superfoods of which are called superfoods. Why? Because they've got multiple nutrients in them. Superfoods are called superfoods because of just their nutrient potency. And herein lies the king, not only eating a strawberry as its own, and some blueberries, but he's also out there having it in jam. Superfoods just everywhere. Superfoods, the nutritional potency of these foods of which has healing capacity, building capacity in the body, out here be repairing you, out here feeding your bones, out here feeding your blood, out here feeding your muscles, out here feeding your skin. And so they lived to older ages, likely looked younger for longer because they were fed. They were fed bone broth, out here be helping you with collagen, and collagen maintains skin elasticity. And these people were always just eating meat. They were always just drinking soup. I mean, listen, it was a whole delicacy. It was a gentleman's drink, soup. And soup is pretty much like thick bone broth. Do you understand what I'm saying? And bone broth is known to improve skin elasticity because of its collagen capacity. Collagen has only been recently studied only in recent years as to its true ability to improve hair, nails, and skin because of this very, society that we live in today is vain, right? This very vain society cares for collagen because they want to regress aging, right? They want to stop aging. And so the experiments with collagen, packaging it, so taking it from like animals or whatever, though it exists in bone broth, are only there to see if at all it works. And indeed, there are people who, like anecdotal evidence from just multiple people, I don't know if scientists have ever since then rendered the evidence worth the while to run with, scientifically peer-reviewed as a whole thing. But as at the last time I checked, it was merely anecdotal, because it was just a clump of collected testimonies across a bunch of people, lots of them across the earth, who claim that ever since they took a collagen shake, their hair has been out here thick like a bush, their nails have been out here growing like some claws, and their skin be out here popping like they've got a Korean skincare routine, so everybody's got glass for skin. Collagen, and again, eyelashes be out here fluttering like your Betty Boop or whatever, okay? Yeah, so if at all people have got testimonies anecdotally that I took a collagen powder dog and also my joints are less rickety, I'm more mobile because it's just repairing the living daylights out of me, and anything else that has a protein in the body like hair, like nails, like eyelashes, like skin will benefit from it. If at all the anecdotal evidence has it such that it is improving you, therefore if it's building you from the outside and you can see it popping on your skin, it must therefore be doing something very healthy for organs like your heart, your lungs, your whatnot, right? Again, fatty tissue is protective. It functions as a shock absorber around organs. You need it, but of course not too much, because then it's giving cholesterol, it's giving heart attack any day now, it's giving coronary episode, it's giving cardio infarction. So not too much food, not too much fat, but fat is necessary for a person to be maintained in health. Fatter people are less likely to pass away from car accidents and such things as those, right? Because of just the shock absorptive power of fat on the body. And well, when people eat a whole chunk, they get fat. Do you understand what I'm saying? But like I said, if they overkill, then they just actually be getting cholesterol issues. Type establishment thing. When you have more food, you've got more fat, and so when you fall, you are also unlikely going to break a bone. And when you fall, and again, bones break because of a lack of calcium, lack of vitamin D, etc. So combination of having enough food to cushion the blow of falling apart, and also enough food to ascertain that you are not just like brittle when you do fall, again also ascertains the longevity of people. That's why kings and queens, basically the wealthy, the elite, they lived to ripe old ages and built legacies all throughout their almost 100 years of life. And yet the peasants just died. They died from preventable diseases, preventable accidents, things that frankly made them just uncomfortable all the day and all the night. No, their bones were brittle, their hair was thin, their skin was what do you call this thing? It was pale, almost like they were corpses, because they did not have enough basic protein feeding nutrients that ought to be making your skin pop and glow. Now in modern society, we also be recommending to people to eat, to drink 8 glasses of water a day, and to eat a certain very healthy balanced diet, water, fish paste, right? These contribute to the clear skin that we have, or the healthy looking appearance, the bounce, the baby fat phenomenon that still dwells in people at a much older age. That is all as a result of things like bone broth. Though you might not be taking collagen powders, you do eat enough chicken, you do eat enough beef, and you do have enough soup, oh aristocrat, right, for you to essentially benefit from collagen, to have your skin glow and glisten. And over and above having your skin glow and glisten, the pharmaceuticals industry has coined essentially bringing all those nutrients into products such that now there are shampoos. Listen, entire shampoos that make your hair be bouncy or whatever. So these nutrients can be topically applied and actually affect your hair insofar as you can put them in a product. These things were discovered. So people be putting fenugreek in their products, mayonnaise, eggs, you know, protein. When would anybody in the olden days, when everybody was like suffocating nice and heavy, when everybody was suffocating nice and heavy, when under heaven would they ever have thought to go and grab an egg? Listen, I gotta eat, or I gotta let this hatch because I need this chicken for food. When would they have ever just cracked one on their hair? Because listen, I need to have salon selective salon shine. No. Like, I'm not gonna go and grab all that protein and all those fats and put them in my hair. What are you doing? I'm not gonna go and grab perfectly viable food and put it in my hair. What are you doing? Now we've got hair masks. Never mind we have hair masks, but we've got facial masks. We be out here putting those nutrients on our faces topically. So we are a vain society that is making sure that we don't crack, you know? We are making sure that we don't crack too young, and we are also consuming a healthy diet. We are also working out because we figured out that it makes sense. We also, medical technology has advised us to stop drinking so much and to stop smoking so much and to stop exposing ourselves to so much sun. But the Gen Zs are busy regressing back to vaping. We don't know what's going on over there, but nonetheless, maybe that's why they be out here looking like old school oldies. Like, listen, you be aging more than millennials, girls and boys. I'm just saying. Anyway, whatever. But like what I'm getting at with that whole conversation is that our vain society and our indulgent society that has everything we have ever, with the other people in the old communities that came before us, ages, generations, did not have the luxuries we have. Even the poorest and worst among us got salon selective salon shine for hair. Even the most poverty stricken among us got eyelashes that be out here giving people a run for their money in the Victorian era. Even the best among us got like surprisingly youthful glow for a 45-year-old. Even the best among us got 20 kids that all made it to the age of 90. The poorest among us, even the poorest among us got moisturized skin. Even the poorest among us drink 8 glasses of water a day. Even the poorest among us has access to public health that will give them ARVs when they contract HIV, and so they don't die from that immunodeficiency illness. Even the poorest among us got antibiotics on flu season. Should we come down with the sniffles from public hospital funding from public health care. Even the poorest among us, should we get in a car accident, can be patched back to health and walk around with crutches without medical aid. There was a time in history when people had to basically get their affairs in order when they fell off a horse. There was a time in history where people would have to get their affairs in order when they got stabbed. But now in modern society, if you survive a stab wound enough to get to the hospital, chances are you're gonna make it. We're living in a miracle era, do you understand? It ought make people see just how much God lives. But people have rather, because of the industrial revolutions of the world, I was listening again to the testimony of not Andrew Murray, but he's one of them. But what I wanted to say is the one that used to write down all of his answered prayers, the one with the orphanages, George Miller. The concern of George Miller around his time was that him and Hudson Taylor was that the world was progressing so much in terms of technology, and John Wesley right next to Charles. The world was progressing so much in their era that they were concerned about people's deconstruction of God because of the advancements of technology. Things rapidly progressed from a certain time in history, but before then, everybody was just out here dying like they ain't jack. Do you understand? I even wonder what was the grief quota of people, seeing as they were so used to death. Were they actually as heartbroken? So it'll never ever get old. Do you understand what I'm saying? But they had grander capacity for it, I would imagine, than in this modern era. Now we be out here dying because people are killing each other. Back then, the world done killed you. Just mere breath, the air just killed you. Water killed you. Your mother's amniotic fluid killed you. Like, listen, we are so much better off. And because of how much better off we are, yes, we understand. In history, people be out here sending children over to get married. And today we regard them as children. But back then, they were, as soon as you had your period, you were good. You were good to go, baby. That's why they were able to let kings reign on thrones. From the age of 8, King Josiah. It's because as soon as you could talk, walk, and appear to be nicely mature, you're good enough, you're as good as adult. I don't even think there was a differentiation between child and adult back then, or what it is that we regard as an adult today, 18 and up, likely very old. It's likely very, very old. But young girls, as soon as you had your period, you were essentially good to go to be a baby mama. So kids be out here getting married at 13, 14, 15. Jean-Marie Guyon was way off as a teenager. It was feasible back then. Now today we be out here crying against it, especially when children don't yet have their period. That is ridiculous. But again, young girls can have their period from as early as 8, 9, 10. So it is problematic. People should just look at a person and just feel like, no, they're not supposed to be having sex. So protect young kids. But teenagers were up for grabs. They were up for grabs by grown men in their 40s. They were up for grabs by grown men in their 40s because it was thoroughly understood that to get to the age of 40 in that era, that made you old. 30 is the beginning of old age. You're basically middle-aged then. 40 is like you're elderly. Your 20s are you're pushing an envelope. Remember in Bridgerton, back when I was watching Netflix, there's this one chick that got married at the age of 27 and she was regarded as a spinster at 27. You only start qualifying as a spinster when you're like maybe late 30s, come on, perhaps 40s. But you can't be calling a 21-year-old a spinster for a good reason. She's a single woman, she's not a spinster. But you become a spinster when it becomes evident that you're not getting married. And in the show Bridgerton, they called a 27-year-old a spinster because that was like crazy old. But now, it is the age when people are even so much as starting to plan to get married. Yes, there are still people getting married at 20, 21, maybe even teenage years. But largely people are waiting to get married a little bit older now because we're healthier. Because of age issues or health issues as a result. Because of health issues as a result of all these things, people tended to also age faster, get crow's feet faster. And also in modern society, in this modern era, this modern generation, we're vain. I get it. We've got plastic surgery. So people's breasts be out here chilling on their clavicles, the way they're so pert at 52 because of plastic surgery. So no longer is unattractiveness at older ages even an issue anymore, like it used to be back in the day. Women's breasts are at their clavicles at like 78. Plastic surgery, liposuction, be out just snatching in your waist. The loose skin that you get as a result of pregnancy be out here getting cut and then put back together again. Survival rate of surgeries is sitting in the upper 90th percentiles. So most people survive surgery, so therefore it's not a risk for you to cut loose skin and then get out and live. People would never have just let themselves go under the knife back in the day because it was a dangerous thing that you like, listen, you may or may not make it. But now most people survive surgeries. Surgery is almost as safe as taking an airplane. It's safer even than being in a car. You understand what I'm saying? And so for those reasons, there's like a whole bunch of people passing away from BBLs because it's an experimental procedure still. I think it's very experimental today and it's dangerous. And that's why it's causing so many complications. And it is as a result of the advancement of more vanity in a very vain society. Like, stop making your bums bigger. Especially black women, like you already have packages. But anyway, whatever. The Kardashians are guilty for that too. Nonetheless, these unnecessary surgeries like BBLs and collagen, Botox injections and face fillers, which God showed me this chick at YouTube is into. She's into Botox in particular. Is her face not pillowy? He might just diss you for that. Your face is not real, but whatever. This pillowing up of people's faces and whatnot, those are unnecessary procedures. Necessary procedures are like heart transplants, maybe even a breast reduction if your boobs are too big, and so they give you a bad problem. Like patching yourself back together again, putting your finger back on you after an industrial accident. Those are necessary surgical procedures. Do you understand? Everything else is unnecessary, but nonetheless, it is being done because surgery is that much safer now. People 9 times out of 10 are going to get out of surgery safe. They're not going to die on the operating table. And it's so widely practiced that people can even travel overseas to be out here getting stuff like this done, right? As a result, therefore, of the advancements of pioneering technologies within surgeries, there then, of course, became necessity for such flaccid surgeries like plastic surgery that now have ascertained that people's breasts are at their clavicles when they're 78. And if at all you can look that young because of plastic surgery at 78, if you can snatch your waist back in and so look like a 20-something-year-old in your body at 58, if at all you can cut your loose skin after pregnancy stretches it, or you lose weight after, and again, weight loss through gastric bypass, enabling people to overcome obesity through surgeries. We live in an era where people's lives are being elongated, and also how they look in older years is much better. The same Kris Jenner has gotten multiple facelifts, and the most recent one has made her look like she's my age. Do you understand? And her hands are the only giveaway because they are looking nice and aged. But apparently there are people who, because their hands are so aged, I found out that Dolly Parton is among them. They wear skin, what do you call this? Like skin suits. Like something that covers their real skin because it's either aged or it's got tattoos or whatever. And so they put on skin suits. While skin suits are not the real you, But nonetheless, I don't think there's too much technology for hands aging. So there are always going to be parts of the body that show that, like, listen, things are going awry. Mara, people's faces be out getting lifted. And so at the age of Kris Jenner, she looks indeed like the mother of Gen Z kids. She looks like the mom of Gen Z kids. Gen Zs of which, I get it, they're like in their mid-20s. She looks like she's a 40-something-year-old woman. Most likely home anyway. Or even just 50, right? She looks like she's like 50 on the dot. And so if she looks just like her, not just like, but if she looks age, like pretty much like she had those kids when she was in her either 20s or early 30s. But she had them when she was late 40s or 50s. Because of surgery. It says, I'm not trying to propagate or advertise surgery as feasible. But we live in a vain enough society for people to be irrational. And so thinking that people at older ages are expired, you're still thinking what I'm getting at. World population, you're still thinking like the way that we've been thinking all these years. Indeed, we understand why you would be thinking that way. Because of the fact that how many centuries have progressed ever since the beginning of time? Way more than how many centuries have progressed ever since the rapid advancements of technology that have then given us this culture shock, that would then give a John or Charles Wesley this culture shock. So we have not had enough time to adjust. I get it. So for that, you will have amnesty. You have not had enough time to adjust to the rapid advancements of technology from your mindset. But it's time you changed. It's time you realize that we are no longer reasonable to consider people old at 30. Like, it's still a thing. When people start to impend the age of 30, they freak out. But that's only because throughout history, people have been impending the age of 30 freaking out. Because indeed, it was regarded as old. And indeed, when you were 40, you were frankly on your deathbed. But that is literally no longer the problem anymore. We have got a life expectancy now that is in the 80s across all of our countries, largely. Yes, there are countries that are nice and crazy still, like North Korea, but still we've got a very high life expectancy number because of medicine, because of available food, the abundance of it, because of vanity that has made women in much older years have their breasts so perked that they're chilling by their clavicle. We've got plastic surgeries, we've got gastric bypass for obese people that are struggling to lose weight the healthy way. We've got medical advancements that has caused doctors, medical professionals to change their minds about that which they once upon a time thought was healthy. Doctors used to prescribe nicotine products to Martin Luther and them. Now they say don't take it because then it's going to cause cancer and it's also going to age you prematurely. Now we've got knowledge, understanding, and indeed it's written in the book of Daniel that knowledge in the last days will increase. So we've got extra knowledge to be healthy. We are drinking 8 glasses of water a day because we can. When there is a drought, the only thing we struggle with is washing our cars with a hose pipe. And not so much dehydration, truly. Do you understand what I'm saying? We take baths every day. So for that alone, we are healthier. And because we take baths every day and so therefore exfoliate every day, even if we are not using actives, our skin is daily being renewed in a way that wasn't the case back in the day. And because of washing the face daily as well, that which can cause premature aging as a result of just like clogged up pores or like clogged up dirt in the face is eradicated. Skin renewal is important. A resurfacing of new skin cells, it is important in the maintenance of youth. And washing our faces, just a mere washing of our faces every single day, keeps us younger for much longer because it expedites the process of bringing forth newer and newer skin cells. And so we look younger for much longer. We look younger for much longer because from the time we enter our teenage, from the time we're born, we're washed every day. Well, babies don't gotta wash every day, but you get my point. And from the time we're born, we are bathed every single day. And from the time when we get to a certain age, we're also told, when I was a teenager, I remember being counseled by some show that I was watching on TV, that when you get to a certain age, you are entirely irresponsible to not have a face wash. You can't wash your face with regular soap anymore. We got such advice as this. And then of course, the vanity industry, coupled with the boom of social media, has made people actively try to eradicate aging much younger. Like Gen Zs are out here getting Botox injections, preventative surgery, listen, weird stuff. Still so young, and that's why they look older than us. They are overkilling. But we are millennials, and I guess those who are slightly older than us, among the generation of blessed people that now have got age-reversing actives in our skincare. We are knowledgeable, we understand, we know stuff, and this information we don't have to go to dermatologist to medical school to know it. We just have to have a keen enough interest and know a dermatologist on YouTube or on TikTok and listen to enough of their content and then go and buy these products. The products of which, that's just the nature of markets. People bring products on the market and they do well. They sell like hotcakes, and then there are replicas. There are copycats, and copycats be out here, what do you call this, driving your prices down like no man's business. I was listening to a woman that sells digital products online, and she used to sell hers on Etsy, and initially she would be very lucrative, but then her prices would go down because somebody would copy the same product on the same page being advertised, and they would sell the same product that she was selling for $12 for 99 cents. And so she moved from Etsy and onto Shopify, and her sales finally caught wind. They finally caught beef and steam, right? Yeah, we've got a copycat culture of that nature now. So when you have a copycat culture, a pharmaceuticals industry that is out just selling retinol for 350 rands a bottle will soon be met with rivalry to the nth degree on Temu, where the same product with the same potency will be selling for $25.